Hey everybody, my name is SPAZ and I'm a CD junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to talk about one of the greatest power pop bands of all time, but they're not just one of the greatest power pop bands of all time, they're one of the greatest pop bands of all time. Who am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about the Rubinoos. No, not really, it's the Rubinoos. And the Rubinoos have been a firm favorite of mine for 40 years. And how do I describe their music? The music is the wonderful and simplistic sounds of the Archies meets the depth and the master craftsmanship of the Beatles, and combine those together and you've got the Rubinoos. Now, if you think I'm kidding, all you got to do is you've just got to search for some songs by the Rubinoos and give it a listen. Fabulous stuff. I mean, hooks galore, harmonies, great chord changes. Tommy Dunbar knows how to write a song. John Rubin knows how to sing a song. God looked upon the earth and he said, I'm sending someone down with the voice of the angel. And that day, John Rubin was born. And boy, can he nail the happiness and the joy of love, as well as the heartache and the hurt. And the Rubinoos, it's simplistic and catchy on the surface, but it's just, there's so much more to that than their music. And how did I get into them? Well, when I was going through, when I started into the whole new wave and punk and power pop scene in 1977, I would buy any album with a band that started with the word "the." And if it looked interesting, I'd pick it up. And of course, that's how I discovered the Rubinoos. It came out in 1977, but I don't think that I actually purchased this till 1978. But boy, did I fall in love with it. I hadn't really heard a band that not only took the influences from the 60s, but there was also like 70s AM radio influences in there. If you listen to the Rubinoos, you're going to hear just as much Jackson 5 as you are going to hear the Beatles or the Monkees or the Archies. And this is, on the surface, you may hear just light, whimsical, but it's so much more than that. But the songs, just the hooks. This does contain their only near top 40 hit, which was their cover version of the Tommy James song, I Think We're Alone Now. That, in my opinion, is the worst song on the album. But I think we all say that about, the Vapors and other bands where, the one hit that they had really wasn't representative of the rest of the album, because stuff on this album is just so much better than that. This came out in 1977. Nothing a Little Love Won't Cure on this melts my heart every single time I hear it. This is the Japanese version, by the way. This has bonus tracks. This is the Line German import that came out. It's autographed by John, Don, and Tommy, and it says Royce there, but it's really Al Chan in disguise. Signed that in about 1999 or so. And this is the original track list of the album. And this is the version with bonus tracks, but I don't think you can really see that. But this is the version really to get. But there's an alternative to this, and I'll explain that in just a few moments, so keep watching. Their second album came out in 1979, and in my opinion, was even better. It was maybe a little beefier, and the songs were just direct in your face. They were not ashamed or afraid to just bring on the hooks and the melodies. From beginning to end, this is another fine platter. There it is on the back. They look like a mixture between the Archies and the Monkees, and the music isn't that far off. But I have to admit, you know what? A lot of people, including myself, compare them to the Archies because we're thinking more sugar, sugar. If you go in and listen to the Archies albums, they're not really that strong. They're not as great as Sugar, Sugar. Rubinoos, oh yeah, there's songs in here that are better than Sugar, Sugar. But anyway, there's that. Here is my version online. This has the original track listings. And Al Chan did sign this, but Al Chan was not a player on this album. He didn't join until the following year. Speaking of the following year, 1980, never heard anything from the Rubinoos. I mean, it took until 1983 or so before their next record came out, but I will touch on that in a moment, because what I want to tell you about right now is even though chronologically this was released later, this came out in 93, this is actually the next set of recordings. This is just as good as the first two albums. The songs here are fantastic. Roy Sater, the bass player, had been replaced by Al Chan, who has been the new kid in the band for 39 years. And it's just a great collection. Like Candy is a great song, and Hurts Too Much, and just a great set of songs. Just light and wonderful. It's crunchy, but it's melodic. It's just pure pop. Now, those three albums that I just talked about can all be found in this 3 CD set. If you don't have this already, this actually contains the Japanese versions, which has bonus tracks. So this LP Anthology Volume 1, which opens up, this has the three albums I just discussed with the bonus tracks. So this is definitely something to check out. Well, let's get back to chronological. Like I said, this didn't come out to 93, but recording-wise, it was 80, 81 demos, and it's just as good, like I said, as the other albums. Chronologically, nobody heard anything from the Rubinoos for the next couple of years until Party of Two. This actually should have been released under the band name the Tubinoos. But this was an EP produced by Todd Rundgren and featuring Utopia backing up just John Rubin and Tommy Dunbar. At this point in time, the four-piece was taking a sabbatical, and Tommy and John were giving it a go. There was a song called If I Had You Back that actually got MTV airplay, and there was a video for it. Is it as great as the first three albums? The songs are. Production-wise, it sounds like a Utopia record. So a lot of keyboards, and still great songs, still worth getting in your collection, especially this Wounded Bird version, because it's got extra tracks on it. Demos and such, which are less keyboardy and closer to the Rubinoos sound that we are all familiar with. But this is every Rubinoos is you need to own all of them. And I don't even own all of them. That's just because live albums and best ofs I usually don't collect. And after Party of Two was released, that was the last time we got a new Rubinoos album until 1998, when Paleophonic was released. Now that is Paleophonic, and just a great return of the classic Rubinoos sound. This is fabulous. It's wonderful. It's kind of like they never went away on one hand, but it doesn't sound dated. It's the thing about the Rubinoos records. They really don't sound dated. Maybe Party of Two sounds dated because of that production, but otherwise the songs really matter and the songs stand up. And since it's two guitar, bass, and drums, you'll be experiencing the Rubinoos. You can listen to this album when it came out in 1998, and you can listen to it now and it still sounds fresh. Same with the first three albums. So that was a great return by the Rubinoos. Then came a collection of cover versions. An album called Crimes Against Music. This came out in 2003. And they don't always pick the normal stuff. I mean, Thorn in My Side by the Eurythmics, that's not a song I normally would have thought that the Rubinoos would do, but do it they did, and it sounds great. John Rubin can sing the dictionary or the phone book, and it would sound good. But this is a fine collection of expected and unexpected covers, and it's really tough. This album rocks harder than some of their other albums before and since. But this is, Al, Tommy, and John. Don was on hiatus at this time. And then came Twist Pop Sin 3 years later, 2006. Again, Tommy, John, and Al playing great, fantastic pop music for everybody to enjoy. Here is another version of Twist Pop Sin. This is the Japanese version with more tracks. And back in 2005, I was putting together a benefit CD to aid the victims of the tsunami, and Tommy Dunbar had sent me a CD with all the tracks that they recorded for the Twist Pop sessions, and there's 17 total, and I was able to pick one track. You'll have to find Of Hands and Hearts to figure out which track that is, but this is a collection, my own personal disc that they actually printed out the song titles, but I won't brag about that. Took another 4 years for the Rubinoos to return, and return they did with a children's album. But it's not strictly kids. It's not just the Wiggles where the parents are going to go, oy vey. No, they're going to sit there and they're going to enjoy songs that are fun and upbeat and humorous. I mean, just like, the Rubinoos stuff. The Rubinoos create music that just brings the joy out of the listener. And this is actually the perfect direction for them to go in. But if you didn't know it was a kid's record, you probably wouldn't even notice. But it's just family fun right here with Biff Boff Boing by the Rubinoos. And then they followed that album up same year with Automatic Toaster. And this features musician, voice actor, and actor Robbie Rist on production and drums. And this is edgy, tough, rough Rubinoos, but still gloriously wonderful pop melodies that will just make you melt. And there's the track listing there. They actually re-record something from the Biff Boff Boing album in more chunkier, direct power pop way, but it's just a fantastic album. The Rubinoos Automatic Toaster. Then this is the Rubinoos EP that came out shortly before their next album. And some of these songs ended up elsewhere on their next album, but some of them didn't. So you're definitely going to need to track this down. A lot of this Rubinoos stuff, by the way, you can probably pick up from the Pop Plus One website, which is run by the band. So you may want to check that out. This is the Rubinoos EP. And then finally, the Rubinoos 45, which is just 45 as in it was their 45th anniversary when this album came out. Don Spint was back full time. So that's the original quartet since 1980 with Don, Al, John, and Tommy. And this is a great album. Unfolds to reveal more Rubinoos pictures, more great songs that will touch your heart and make you smile. This right here is the Japanese version of the same album, and it has some bonus tracks as well. So you're definitely going to want to get one or the other, or do what I do and get both. There are other Rubinoos compilations, and there's a live album out. I'm just going to show you two more compilations. Now, I do have the Everything You Wanted to Know About the Rubinoos 2 CD set that contains their first two albums plus most of Basement tapes and some other odds and ends, but I used it for one of my power pop videos recently and I have misplaced it somewhere. And there's also some other various compilations. There's one called Hodgepodge. There's a Best of the Rubinoos, and definitely check out anything you can by the band. But what I wanted to show you here is after Basement tapes came Garage Sale. And Garage Sale was just a bunch of unreleased tracks spanning their career, most of them demos. There's, the typical 2 guitar, bass, drum lineup, and then there's some things that they recorded demos for with a Casio keyboard. And but it's all great because it's John Rubin's voice, it's Tommy Dunbar's writing, and you can't miss with that. I also happen to have a Japanese version of it that has a few extra bonus tracks. I think there's a total of 3 bonus tracks on there. And then finally, they're released shortly after that. It's kind of officially sanctioned, but not really. But it was like a fan club or a fan-shared compilation called Bomb Shelter. And Bomb Shelter contains even more rarities by the Rubinoos. Things like radio jingles and demos and alternate things. And it's just fantastic. The Rubinoos is just one of the finest melodic pop bands out there. I know that I said that at the beginning, and I'm saying that at the end. They're definitely a band you need to check out if you want to be touched by just great music, great melodies, great hooks, great harmonies, great vocals. Just everything about the Rubinoos is amazing. And even more amazing, it is 2019, and they have a brand new album coming out on Yep Rock any day. It just has to be announced. new music from the Rubinoos. It's their first new music in 4 years, and I can already tell you right now, it's going to be amazing. So that's it for me on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you to either go back and listen to or re-listen to your Rubinoos records. And my name is SPAZ, and I'm a CD junkie.